So I'm going up to Oakland and I am going to be doing therapy.
What kind of therapy?
It's what I would call alternative therapy.
That's my husband, Andrew, and he's about to do psilocybin and MDMA therapy. So let me fill you in on how we got here. My husband has a stressful job. He's a professional high-stakes poker player and has been for the past 2 decades. He's been featured in Card Player magazine and ESPN. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with poker, it's akin to being a stockbroker. Those who make the best bets win in the long run, but bad luck, poor timing, and mistakes can cost you lots of money. Last year, he experienced his longest losing streak ever, and in poker, that's what we call a downswing. But for the purposes of making this relatable to you, as you hear Andrew talk about a poker downswing, just think of a downswing as a really tough time you went through in your life, maybe losing a job or someone close to you, or even getting your heart broken.
Yeah, so a downswing is effectively just a series of really bad days, really bad sessions where you go in, you lose money. But also, for me, more than the money, it was a losing of my self-confidence and a losing of who I am in the world or who I believe myself to be. And it happens over a long period of time, and mine lasted for about a year. It took a toll on me, and I think it takes a toll on a lot of people that go through that. There's a lot of lasting effects from that I still experience in my sessions now, even though I'm not in a downswing. When I play poker now is just anxiety and stress right from the jump. And my body is tense the whole time. I'm just in fear a lot, and fear of what could happen and what might happen, and my focus isn't where it needs to be. And so then if I can work through this, because logically I understand a lot of these things, then I'll be able to continue not just playing poker, but being happy, I think.
It should be mentioned that before we left on this trip, we did some research. Most people who think of magic mushrooms and MDMA think of this. Not exactly what Andrew was looking for. Rather, he was looking for the medicinal use, which wasn't hard to find information about. We found countless studies and interviews with experts talking about the efficacy of using MDMA and psilocybin in treating anxiety, depression, and PTSD when used in a controlled and guided setting.
The orange bar shows that 92% of those people who received the high dose of psilocybin 5 weeks after the session were reporting clinically significant improvements. In 70% of these, the symptoms have remitted to the normal range. We're showing similar effects for anxiety. 80% of the volunteers in that study reported that the experience was among the 5 most personally meaningful and spiritually significant experiences of their lives.
So Andrew talked to a friend and counselor who referred him to a therapist who does this kind of therapy. Andrew first had a couple of regular over-the-phone therapy sessions, but then he was ready, so we drove up to NorCal for his mushroom and MDMA therapy session. The morning of, I could tell Andrew was really nervous. What you doing?
I'm just trying to make a phrase. I don't know what I'm gonna say yet. That's how it's starting.
It's interesting. All right, so how you feeling?
I feel good physically. I think I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. I feel kind of silly for going to these lengths to try to fix my problem. And it's I've always been oh, you're fine. Just figure it out yourself. You can do it. And that just hasn't worked though. And I just always tried to do it on my own. So I guess it's not silly.
This is one of those adventures that can go on with you.
Okay, so I just left Andrew. You know, it's just been so hard to watch him stress so much, and I'm really grateful that I am with someone who is willing to do whatever it takes to solve what's going on for him, because he wants to be like the best man he can be. I'm so grateful for that. Like, sometimes it's like when you love someone so much, like, I wish I could just take his pain from him. Like, sometimes I'm watching him struggle and I just am like, if I could just take it from you, I would. So thinking about him going through the therapy, which no doubt is going to go places that are dark and scary and painful, I'm nervous for him to go through that. But what love also is knowing that pain is a teacher, and being like, you know, like okay with him going through it. I don't know, it's like such a hard thing, because when you love someone, you don't want them to go through pain, but when you love someone, you know that sometimes that's their path. So, yeah, okay. Check back in later.
Okay, so I don't actually have any footage of what happened right after Andrew's session for reasons that will become clear in a moment, but let me start by saying that one of the most common ideas in mushroom therapy is that the mushrooms will provide the healing experience you need, and it might be in surprising ways. Well, one of the most profound pieces of the whole experience for both Andrew and I came after the therapy session when I showed up. But first, here's Andrew explaining what happened before I arrived.
I think it's different for everyone. Some people maybe do some MDMA only, some people maybe only do mushrooms only. The dosage will be different depending on your level of experience with those two things. For me, I did both. I did both the MDMA and the mushrooms. And we started with the MDMA, and once I started to experience the warm body feeling and a lot of the sensations of the MDMA, I was talking a lot about my life and problems and things that have been coming up for me and kind of why I was there. Then about an hour after that, I took mushrooms, and then when I took the mushrooms, I remember taking the handful and thinking, okay, this is a lot more than I've ever done before. I better put my seatbelt on, and I just put them down, and that's when things got really interesting. For me, I had some of the visuals that were puzzling to me. Like, things were not as they seemed. Like, the guy I was talking to, like, he had an eye on top of his head and his face was kind of like to the side over here. But for me, I was fine because I knew, like, I was conscious, and I knew, okay, like, this guy's face is still his face. I just ate mushrooms, I'm okay. I had so many moments where I just had my eyes closed. I was laying there, and it was like so many things made sense to me about my life and things that I hadn't been doing that I should have been doing, or exactly what I needed to do to rectify certain things in my life that I wanted to do. Where things got really challenging for me was that I experienced amnesia, and I basically had no idea where I was, who I was. I didn't understand what building I was in, like what a building was. I didn't know what age was. I didn't know how old I was.
This was the state Andrew was in when I came in after the therapist left, who, by the way, would have stayed with Andrew had I not been there. I didn't actually know if Andrew had taken a low or high dose of psilocybin, so I wasn't fully prepared for what came next. Now, I'm familiar with the spiritual component of psilocybin, so when Andrew started asking me questions like, what is currency and how did I get here? I just thought he was being deep and existential. So I answered in an existential way and said, I think you were looking for answers. But then he was like, no, like, did we drive? And I'm laughing now, but in the moment, I realized he was really scared.
I didn't even know who Christy was. And it was kind of like having Alzheimer's, where I was with her and I thought, I know this person, I know that's Christy, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And that state lasted for a good half hour to an hour. It was pretty terrifying.
So finally I got my grounding and understood what was happening. I knew that all I needed to do was hold space for him, and so I wrapped my arms around him and reminded him that he was safe.
What was really powerful about that experience was that I had Christy there with me, and I realized that in my fear and anxiety and the chaos that I was in, I was able to just completely surrender into Christy's arms and just let her hold me and tell me everything was going to be okay. And I just laid there in her arms, just feeling safe and comfortable, confused and scared all at the same time. It was kind of a big breakthrough for me because what I had been doing that had led me to this point in poker was that I'd been trying to do everything by myself. I was doing all of this for Christy. Whenever things would go really poorly, I didn't tell Christy. I would just fight through it, and I would just internalize all of the bad feelings. And I was like, in my mind, this is my love language. I'm doing this so she doesn't have to experience any of that. What I realized is that I needed to be held. I needed to be loved. I needed to be told everything was going to be okay. I didn't need to be this kind of tough guy, and that surrender that I had in that moment really kind of opened my eyes to, man, when I get back, I want Christy to be a part of this with me. When things don't go well for me, I want her in there, and I want her to hold me. I want her to tell me everything's going to be okay. I want her to be a part of that process with me as well. So that was really big for me. It was a pretty big moment of the night.
Andrew also shared that our dog Dallas, who passed away last year, came up a lot during his session.
As a professional poker player, I've had my dog for 13 plus years, and she was a huge part of my process of coping with my downswing, with my stress, with losing. I spent a lot of time and energy after my bad sessions with my dog. Like, we would go to the beach, just her and I. We would go for long walks. I would take her to the park. I would lay on the ground with her and just pet her for a long time. And I didn't realize how much I missed that.
When Andrew came home, he had another session with a therapist who reminded him of all the things he'd written down during the session that Andrew wanted to remember, including new ways to cope with stress and anxiety.
Even if this was hard, I couldn't let you know by the way it looked, because I'm on camera right now. Gotta look really strong.
You gotta be tough.
Yeah, it was one of the things that came up for me was that get outside every day, even for a little bit. And another word that came up for me during my session was play. Well, we're gonna go play basketball, actually. We got a basketball here.
But we need some tunes.
Oh, tunes, I got tunes.
Nice song choice. I like it.
Summer's Eve. Come on.
Okay.
Train bound no way. I met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us, and he began to speak.
Let's do this, babe. Let's get our play on.
Okay.
One of the best things for me that happened was just being able to write down a lot of the things that came up for me in the session, and little things that seemed at the time I was like, oh yeah, I want to get outside every day, I want to cultivate play, and I kind of left it at that. But then my experience a month later just doing these things on a daily basis has been fun. Like, it's something that I didn't realize was as important to me as it is. So having that awareness and just being able to look back at those things that I wrote down and actually do them has been really nice. So I feel like it's really helped me sustain like a really good feeling through this whole last month.
Okay. You know what I need to see?
What's that?
What do you think?
My move?
Yeah.
You ready for the move?
I'm ready for the move.
This is how the move works.
Okay.
Fake over here, like you're coming this way,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
But really,
Yay!
that's the move right there, you got it. The fact that I'm not completely healed from my trauma from poker is fine, because first of all, it's just not how those things work. Second of all, it's just you continually move in the direction of healing and understanding, and that's what I did. And I think, as long as I continue to do that, as long as I keep that thirst and that hunger for improving and healing, then that's all I can do. And I'm just really happy that I had that experience and was able to do that.
His final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got